Hello everybody, Northwest Cavalryman here, and today we're doing one more video in my series of firearms ranked 1 to 12. This firearm here is my #1 firearm on the list, and I'm just about to tell you how I got there. So this is a 1911 chambered in 9mm. There is no magazine in the magazine well, and of course the chamber is empty. This is my STI Trojan. So let's get into ranking this firearm and find out how it got the #1 spot. Well, the original trigger pull on this firearm was 4 pounds 8 ounces, but I did a little bit of work on it, and the current trigger pull is 2 pounds 11.1 ounces. Also, the second and subsequent pulls are going to be exactly the same because it's a single action only, so it's 2 pounds 11.1 ounces. The only problem I have shooting this firearm as far as the trigger pull is, sometimes because the trigger pull is so light, I get trigger freeze. My trigger finger actually freezes because it is so short of a reset and so light, I forget that I'm even pulling the trigger. So for the original trigger pull, I'm giving that 12 points out of 12. For the current trigger pull, I'm giving that 12 points out of 12. And for the current single action trigger pull, so second and subsequent trigger pull, of course, that also gets 12 out of 12. So 12s across the board. Trigger feel, I'm giving that 10 out of a possible 12, so fairly high. Because, I mean, I could give this, I could give this 12, but again, I talked about the trigger freeze that I sometimes get there. I could possibly increase the poundage on this so that I get more of a solid reset. So 10 points out of a possible 12. Now the trigger reset on this, of course, it is not as positive as I would like. I just talked about that. However, it is really short. There's hardly any movement in that trigger on the reset. So I'm rating the trigger reset at 12 points out of possible 12, and the consistency 11, because it is very consistent, and probably my second most consistent firearm. Ergonomics, I'm going to give that 10 out of a possible 12. I really love the feel of a 1911. Who doesn't? But I have to rank it somewhere, and there's other firearms out there that I like the feel of a little bit better than this, but you can't really beat the feel of a 1911. Grip texture, I'm also going to give that 10 out of 12. Although I could use a bit more grip texture on the side. It does have sufficient grip texture. On the back, it does have grip texture on the back strap and on the forestrap. So yeah, I don't have any problem with this firearm bouncing around in my hand, so grip texture is more than adequate. I'm going to give that 10 points out of a possible 12. Controls on this firearm. Love the controls of a 1911, they're very standard. We do have the ambidextrous safety, the wing safety on the side, and it is very positive. I do have the slide lock slide release. It is only on the left side, and as with most 1911s, it's a little bit far forward, so sometimes you do have to break your grip a little bit in order to actuate the slide lock slide release. The takedown on a 1911, of course, very traditional and a little bit more complicated than other 1911s, or the pistols, I should say. So that results in the controls being dropped down a bit. But the magazine release is right in the perfect position to release that magazine. Weight of this firearm. This firearm comes in at a whopping 1,095 grams. It is heavy. It's one of my heavier guns. 2.402 pounds, which is 38.45 ounces. Shootability, 11 points. It's a 1911. It shoots like a wonder. And of course, everything all combined, the trigger weight, the trigger reset, and just the whole feel of this gun. I'm gonna give that 11 points out of a possible 12. Recoil management, I'm gonna give that 8 points out of a possible 12. I can control the recoil on this pistol quite well. Not my best, but definitely not my worst in the top range. So 8 points out of a possible 12 for recoil management. Historical significance, of course, this gun pretty much started or was at the beginning of the switch to semi-automatic pistols, and the action on this is found in all sorts of semi-automatic pistols. Today, this is basically what a lot of actions, most of the current actions, are based off of this basic action by John Moses Browning. So, historical significance, that gets a full 12 points out of a possible 12. And of course, it was not the 9mm, but the 1911 was in use of from the US military from 1911 all the way up to 1985. And as a matter of fact, it's still used today by a lot of military units. And of course, even after well over 100 years, this is still one of everyone's favorite firearms. Personal preference, I'm going to grab this firearm over a lot of my other pistols, but I do have to rank it somewhere. Personal preference, I'm going to give this 9 out of a possible 12 for personal preference. Aesthetics, well, this gets 11 out of 12 for aesthetics. You can't really beat the aesthetics of a 1911. Well, obviously, one of my guns does, but I really do enjoy the aesthetics of this firearm. It's a classic look. You can't go wrong with a 1911. That gives us the highest number of accumulated points out of my firearms, 1 to 12, and it brings this firearm in at 146 points. So I do hope that you enjoyed this video. Of course, this is the background video of how I rank my firearms 1 to 12, and there will be another video coming out shortly ranking all those firearms in one video. But I did need to do these videos to show you how I got to that conclusion, because there are so many videos out there that rank firearms and they just don't give you a lot of information of how they came up with that. Hey everybody, thank you very much for watching my videos. If you've enjoyed this content, please like the video and subscribe. We'll see you next time.